Hey people, I did this short movie yesterday, Summoning Azazael, and it'll have the proof, so I'll leave the link up here. It'll help to watch this before. But it was here in Numbers 6:17, the Greek, that had me go searching this word of deliverance, soterio, which comes from a part of esotery. But it was this whole chapter here that was plainly pointing at Azazel. I don't know if it uses that word anywhere in the Hebrew yet. I'm sure I'll spot it while doing this movie if it's in there. But this word they say is the ram, the cryon. This is the word in the Hebrew when it says, and they called his name, is the cryon. And what on cryon? A festitution, like a restitution. This is a feast of fees, the works, the cost of, the fees of tuition. T-U-S and the I-A reads a U, a tuition. And they call it the sacrifice of soteriou, or the so there you, what you get in return from fighting in the playground. And they call it deliverance here. I believe they called it salvation in the New Testament. They always call this word salvation, the soterion, the soteriou, soterios, always salvation. And it's where the word Jesus comes from, the Yahshua. That's the Old Testament in the Hebrew, to save, deliver, salvation. And I tell you in the South, so there you, that's something given in return, in retaliation. Somebody hits you in the playground, you always bring them, never bring back an empty pot. Somebody gives you something, bring them something back. And to me, it looks like, theory. The theory on taught how. And I got a comment on that movie yesterday, but yeah, that's plainly the signature of God. So theory on Thoth, how. The way thought works. So there he on thought how. So there he on taught how, that's somebody who's not quick to react, somebody who think about a plan to get you back. So there ye on. And upsettage faces arch too. So there ye on thought how. How'm I get this son of a bitch back? And here, the A words read backwards. But, we'll listen in Hebrew, that's going to be a shmo. And so there he on thought how. Of they then a shmo. Let me put this in a way you bunch of schmoes could understand, that you would listen, And so there he on thought how. Of they then a shmo. But with the A words backwards and forwards, it's the knowest. A knowest on a best to him in. And it is said a best in, and then backwards and forwards to elate. It was a fest to fess up, to tell all. And now it's elate and tell more, and go more into detail. And elates if a fest all. And all it out. And so to get more information out, to fest all it out. So there he on thought how. So how could I get more information out? But it's going to be esoteric, it's going to be secret. It means you have to sit and think about it. It's not all free and given up. It's not under lock and key. You just have to think about it. So there he on thought how. And then backwards, a jot, a little bitty mark, the little mark above the J here, the dot, and the jot. And then this is toot, T-E-W-T, a toot, a little mark, a shape attached, a letter, a jot attached. And why it knows awoke, and aten, is the rising light, the rising sun, and the aten has woke. This is the aten here, the rising sun. And it's reading as a Y, W-I-N-Y, aten has woke, accusing on day, and knowest on the best to him in, at it is said best in, elates, and more if affests all it out. Too so there he on thought how could I get more information out? And this is one of the first secret words that I noticed. Everybody else in the world, what they call a vaca, V-O-K-A, vaca, we call it a cow. And a little mark. And so there he thought on how a little mark attached, how at nose of vaca should be read as a cow, or should it be read as a moo? And a little mark onto nose of vaca cows on day, which is also a secret code for moo day, day one, which was Thought's birthday. So there he on thought how a jot, a little mark attached. Why, how on nose a voca, the vocal cow, the vocal cows on day, moo, the moo day. And they will listen, not what you're reading, what you're hearing. So it's kind of the opposite of a restitution, is to make pay back, as a restitution. But what on the cry on to call on the name of the feastitution is they sacrifice. You're not getting that money back. The fees, the cost of that. So this is all written in ancient Teutonic or ancient English. Same thing was their first language. And it's poetry. The words would be broken up in different places compared to how they would the Latin to put language together. But it'll separate words, and you can still understand what they say, the fees, the feastitution. So there you to cure, a K-U. And this I omega that reads as a E, K-U-R-E. So there you to cure. And what on cry on feastitution, so there you to cure. If he to can it on, to can it on, to throw it away, the trash bin, is the unleavened breads, is the gnome, the law was as, Azaz, backwards and forwards, Azazamon, the gnome of Azazamon, the law was Azazmon. I go to the bin for the poor. If you ain't collected that debt, you just got to give it up. And what on cry on feastitution, so there you to cure. If he to can it on, a gnome was Azazamon, and fees of he a roostin, the O-I reads a E, double E, he, and he roostin. That's where the priest gets his money. He goes out and roosts it up. And the fees of he roostin, a tushin, and backwards and forwards, what, and then the VA, a DE or TE, duties, DEWT, the dude of, what you owe, not the offering, but what you owe, what dude of, and he a roostin, tushin, what dude of, and what in spawned in, and what toot of, and all his children just like him. So they must have done outlawed the name of Azazael, and they had to hide it in here, in the can of unleavened breads. The double N's reading here is a N-Y, an any. And if he to can it of any amuses on. If he just cancel any bill he want, and any amuses him on, the fees and a fees he roostin, a roostintution, not a restitution, a roostintution. And we're gonna raise all your taxes a little bit to pay for this sacrifice, and the fees they roostintution. And this is a determinative. It's when you're reading it forward, it's ought to, this is what you would do, what you ought to. And when you're reading the A words backwards and forwards, it's It's a determinative. It's what you're made of. It's a what and a TEW too, and what to it of, what shape it of, what it's made of, how it's written, and what to it of. And it's a determinative, and it means, what category of this type under. And you can see in the Hebrew what they think about this type, is the can it any was as on. Anybody wants one, you can have one. Thrown out the back door. And so in the Hebrew, all this was called the vow of the Nazarite. And they have a whole bunch of words to explain what a Nazarite is, but mostly it means consecrated. But there's only two things that ever come from Nazareth, the Nazarite, Jesus the Nazarite, the sacrificial lamb, and then the sacrificial ram in the Old Testament that they're trying to cover up the meaning of Nazarite. But you'll see several words here connected with the NZR in them. It'll start at the front, in the second line, and consecrate an offering to take the vow of the Nazarite. But this is upon a lender render. A lender render is, here, you take my wife. Upon a lender render, rend is where your NDR, render is where children comes from the Egyptian word rent, all that's associated. And upon, the L followed by the A reads the N. Upon a lender render, inzer laser, a laser leave. And you could tell, and that's what it means when you get the end. But you have several words that you don't see anywhere else. They just come up here. It's a iser, a sucker iser, and a comet sucker no, a knowest it. And you can see this is where the Nazarite's coming from. The Nazar, the separation. In all the days of the vows of separation, and the clemender ren, the rens, a renser too, the Nazar. And separate himself is a iser. And then he separates himself, as a iser too. In his separation again, a Nazar, the Nazar too. And the same, exact word for his consecrated, the Nazar, NZRU. And all this cleansing going on because he got a big old turd on his head. And that's another movie I found a whole bunch on the turd. And he shall consecrate to Jehovah, a day's of separation, is the Enzer. And a time Enzer too. And a weezer to you, a time Enzer too. And we buck of his ben. This is where your word via come from, via in transportation, how it got there. But the IAs reads as a U. It's a B-U-K, a buck. We buck ofs, the one that's carrying it down there and bringing the male lamb, and we buck ofs been. And because was defiled his separation, his Nazaru, and was at the turd in Nazar. And this tell me the Nazarites was coming from Upper Egypt. The turd was the law of Upper Egypt. And of his separation, the Nazar, and shall shave the Nazarite at the door of the tabernacle, and gleans, or polishes that head, and consecrated in Nazaru, and consecrated Nazaru. And if you keep following these words down, that they give Nazar, the consecrated or separated, you'll find a line that has a bunch of other words similarly spelt, and to give a better idea of what the word means, that you may drink some Nazarite wine. And the best chance are to end up right here in the law, then that the turd, that law of the Nazar, that Inzer has a rid her carbon, put her to flames, has as that Inzer has a rid her carbon too. Set it to flames and burn it, and carbon a leave to fly away in the smoke, to burn your problems. And all Inzer lived, and separate from everything that's dragging you down with that guilt that all Inzer lived. Everything attached to it is gone in the smoke. And asserts a guide, a copy ender, and all your children just like you. And asserts a guide to show you how a copy ender. And this works for all types of problems. The vow, the Indru and the Inzru. The vow of separation has gotten rid of, which he takes, has ridder. That's the job of Azazael. Has ridder a conjures. They call him up. The conjures all turt, all the law, and conjures all turtins. But up here in this line we was looking at in the Greek in 17, it's a what, and a what is the same thing as a det. It's the determinative, and it's in this type, in this column, in this classification. And the vave, same as in the Greek, reads as a de or a te, and a det, the determinative, what it owes to in this column. And the det, the ale of Jose. Jose is an ancient racist word for a seasonal farm hand. Jose. They come down from Spain. They work in Egypt. And so a det, the determinative of the ale of Jose's bitch. Jose's bitch is a bitch's lin. And Jose's bitch's lin as a sacrifice of a peace offering. Hey, you could sleep with my bitch. A bitch's lin. M-I-M reads the E-N, a lin. And the det to the ale, to the sickness, Jose's bitch's lin. A prostitution ring. And leave all slimming. A slimmit's what? And leave all. So Jose come and work in your field. He would loan you his bitch. And what the ale of Jose's bitch's lin is you needed some pussy. And leave all a slimming what's. When she leave, you missing a lot of jewelry around the house. This is gold here. It's compact, unleavened bread. Bread that's compact and easy to pocket. The bread, the gold, and all slimmets what. And was seeking, S-E-E-K-E-N. And that's, wash, W-O-S-H-W-S-E. And, a girl she makes an offer, hey, I'll clean your house. And that's because she's seeking, was a seeking at the minute, the what, the VA ring is a T-E-D-E. And the minute, what it tends, a coup. Coup is to come together. What it tends to come together, a coup. And you can see where the word Gillette come from here, and shall shave, and Gela, and also Atra. The Atras, the head, the shave his head, a Gillette Atras. But this is to shine that head, and a glean her path, and cleans her path. She ain't got all your jewelry, and cleans her path. Islam would. Yes, Islam was around long before Judaism, and Islam would at an sensor too, and a lift, and we'll fuck. You got tooken, and shall take, will fuck, or and lift it, and take its at sorry, SOR, double R is a Y, a sorry ass, and from hair, from head, at the sorry ass Inzer to wanton, WNTN, and Inzer, wanton, and hunting all come from this word, and wanton all has assured it, and which is under, she hid it, assured it under her shirt, and assured it's a bitch, and is Len, the one that was lent is Len. So I was telling my brother about this the other day, and he says, well, oh yeah. He said, people were bringing these offerings to the church, and the priest was telling him, no, your offering isn't good enough. It has to be pure and clean and white and 2 years old. And so Jose's bitch shop, he was selling them overpriced offerings, birds and sheep, whatever, to pay for their sins. And if you read it with the mark, and what Lou, the IA is a U and the AE is a S, and what Lou sale, SAIL, and what it sale, a Jose's bitch. Jose's bitches a Len, and L to you, a Len to you, all slim it's what. So that's believable. I could believe, it's psychology. If somebody believes, that burning this offering is going to take away your sins and clear your mind of this, the ultimate sacrifice would be your bitch. Hey, let's give up the bitch. And I'll give that some thought while I read the rest of this. There's a lot more in this chapter I wanted to look at. But I'm going to cut this off here. A good day.